Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're doing this. We're doing it. This is just a thing that's happening. Nothing you can do about it. Um, as I mentioned in the Facebook group, I'm trying to get better at the clickbaity headlines. I know they're like important for algorithm stuff. I just want you to know that I know that I'm doing it for algorithm reasons. Like I'm not actually trying to, you know, fuck with your emotions or anything. Or that I don't recognize like the system that we're all living in doing this. Anyway, um, I felt the need to put that disclaimer because like I hate clickbait video titles and I've now started to do them and something 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 live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So, what's up guys? Welcome to another episode of Full Blast. I've had a lot of energy today, these past few days, in case you couldn't tell. A lot of revelations, a lot of realizations, a lot of metaphorical and literal veil lifting happening. So I wanted to make this video. So as you may have noticed for the past couple of videos, I've been really interested in questioning this premise of like how much to use your saviors, how much to use your demons, what is the right balance, right? Because it's really easy to be like balance, but balance can mean an infinite number of things, right? Balance can mean 70-30. Balance can mean 50-50. Balance can mean 80-20. Balance, like, it so depends. So I've been really interested in exploring this idea of like, what if we were to balance our lives more in favor of our saviors, right? Not to the point that we're running ourselves off a cliff, and especially not to the point that like really the key is like if you're using your saviors and your saviors don't work, you don't get to throw a tantrum about it. That's the whole thing, right? What you want to track over time is like, how often do my saviors work? How often do I need to use my demons? And then systematically going, and finding different places where it's like, you know what? If in this relationship, job, home environment, city I live in, hobby, diet plan, whatever, if you're like, I have to use my demons like 60 to 70% of the time, then it's just not a good fit. Like whatever it is, like existence does not have to be pain. That just is it is not all painless, but like I think that it's so easy to tilt the scales and being like, yep, let's see how much fucking pain I can take on. And like now you're being strong for no reason. Right. And now it's like, okay, well, in order to be a world champion, power lifter, I need to lift 500 kilograms. It doesn't really matter if I can lift 1,000 kilograms because I don't need that much to actually win. Also, and I know I mentioned this before, but like, we're not fucking Navy SEALs. Like, I get how hardcore they are, and like, that's great. And like, you need to be really hardcore if, your job is to kill Osama bin Laden. Yes, in that scenario, you have to be super fucking hardcore. Like, if you are Chris Kyle or Jocko Willink, you have to be hardcore. If you are not those people, you don't have to be that hardcore. Like, to get through life, you just don't have to be that hardcore. So I just want to put that out there. But today, I want to talk about growth mindset because something came across my desk yesterday from a good friend, Jessica, and it fucked me up. I got fucked up. I was like those pair of Jordans in Do the Right Thing that Bugging Out wore, and that white dude in the Larry Bird jersey ran over his foot with his bike and it scuffed him. And then Bugging Out's friend was like, yo, those Jordans are fucked up. That was me. That was literally me when I saw this thing. So, we've been talking about, the growth mindset. I've been talking to a bunch of people about this and boom, boom, boom. And then fucking out of nowhere, again, I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of people about like townsfolk land and going back to townsfolk land. And here's the thing, in the hero's journey, the hero doesn't fucking stay out in the wilderness. The hero comes back and lives in townsfolk land for like a significant period of time. And then once in a while, he'll be like, I got to go out and get another boon. Fair enough. BRB. Let me go into the depths of hell. And then let me come back and help the people. And then he or she lives with the people and goes back to townsfolk land in many, many ways. Right. And so I've been thinking about like, how do I get back to townsfolk land? What does that mean? What does a responsible version of townsfolk land look like? What does a sustainable version of townsfolk land look like? Right. And then I saw, something that Carol Dweck herself. So Carol Dweck is the one who sort of came up with the idea of, growth mindset, fixed mindset. And in OP, we talk a lot about how the difference between the alpha and the not alpha, whatever, is growth mindset versus fixed mindset, right? We've been talking about this for years. That is like one of the core tenets of OP. Great. So then I saw this thing from Carol Dweck that she apparently said in 2016. I don't know how the fuck I missed it until now, but I think a lot of people missed it. And so I'm just going to read what this little image says. And there's two of them, both of them equally aggressive. Instead of expecting students to obtain a growth mindset, try to reset your expectations by viewing mindsets as a continuum. A common misconception of Dweck's mindsets is to view them as a dichotomy rather than a continuum. Guilty as charged, 100%. It always felt very binary, looking for binary coins. Are you growth mindset or are you fixed mindset? How can you hack yourself to become basically permanently growth mindset? But here's what Dweck said in 2016. Everyone is actually a mixture of fixed and growth mindset. And that mixture continually evolves with experience. A pure growth mindset doesn't exist, which we have to acknowledge in order to obtain the benefits we seek. Oh my God. I want to read that middle part again because that fucked me up. Everyone is actually a mixture of fixed and growth mindset, and that mixture continually evolves with experience. And listen, I could go on a whole fucking rant about Western education system and how it keeps us in a perpetual state of youth and not knowing things so that we feel indebted to the system that is bringing us up. And like it's teachers, it's authority figures telling us that we still need them and punishing us for not needing. It's a whole fucking predatory thing, right? But I think that it's so easy to discount that, like, if you actually have experience, then, you can actually rely on that. Like, you really, really can. And it's one thing that I hear so often, especially from, in classes and whatever, is this idea of like, approach everything with a beginner's mind. I'm going to be honest. I think that's bullshit. I think that's 100% bullshit, or at least 96% bullshit. So like, for instance, so I decided, because I am bored and I need healthy socialization, I decided to go onto Wyzant and pay for a chess tutoring lesson. Just one lesson. I'm comically bad at chess. Like I'm really, really, really bad at chess. given how good I am at other strategy games. Like, I've been playing strategy games competitively at the professional level since I was 7.5 years old, and I'm still garbage at chess. Like, no. That's not acceptable. Like, I'm not going to be as good at chess probably as I am at Magic, and I'm certainly not going to be like grandmaster level, maybe ever, just given that I'm, starting my chess journey at 34 and not 4. But whatever, that's not the point. The point is, I decided to sign up for a chess lesson. And I was thinking about like how much of a beginner I really am, genuinely, like objectively speaking. And in a lot of ways, I very much am a beginner at chess. Absolutely. I know notation. I know, how the pieces move. And I know a couple of the things about like how reveals work and how forks work and how skewers work and this and that, right? Like, I understand a couple of those things. But when it comes to like even the most basic strategy stuff, where it's like, okay, as the aggressor, like as white, what is my, like, what am I trying to accomplish after the opening? I don't even know where to start with that question. Like, that's the level of beginner that I am. And so I accept that, right? So when I approach this chess lesson with a beginner's mind, I'm approaching it with a beginner's mind in the areas in which I am actually a beginner. But I don't know that it's necessarily helpful or productive or necessary to be like, I'm a beginner in all of life, because that's not true. For instance, so I'll send you, I'll read to you something that, so this is, correspondence with me and my tutor. So I played against like an 1100 AI, very low level. It's a game that I won, and ordinarily I would have rather shared a game that I lost and to an actual human. But I was like, this is actually a really good snapshot of how I play. So I think that there's a lot to mine there. And so I was like, here's the transcript of the game. The chess app that I played on pointed out my mistakes. A few I understood. There were a couple where I was like, oh no, I should have threatened my opponent's queen with my bishop and protected with the queen rather than threatening the queen with the queen and then retaking with the bishop, right? There are some things where I look at it, I'm like, oh, right, yep, okay, great. And then like a particular mate, like there was a capture that I made and I was like, oh, I didn't have to do that. I could have actually just left that piece alone and gone, put him in check and sort of started the end game there. Fine. But then I was like, there are 3 moves I don't understand. So there was like, knight captures at d4. Why is bishop capturing at c6 correct? Is it that the pawn on d4 isn't really doing anything? I'm fine being down a pawn for a few moves. Now, let me be clear. That might be a dumb fucking question. That might be the completely wrong question. That's not the point. But the point is that I'm not so beginner that I can't ask it, right? My level of expertise is able to ask that question, right? And I can, look at other moves where it's like, rather than capturing, and there was another place like my knight captured a pawn. And then, but the chess app told me to move it back. And I was like, I don't know why that's correct. I'm guessing it has something to do with trying to control the center. But again, I don't really know. I don't really understand. So again, how much of a beginner am I? Well, I'm not such a beginner that I don't know what center control is, but I'm still enough of a beginner that I don't really know what it means. And I don't know how to leverage it. And I don't know how to apply it. I just know that it's a thing that in chess, the middle 4 squares matter. And that's about it, right? So when I'm approaching this lesson with a beginner's mind, there are ways in which I am not as beginner as I could be. I understand how material points are counted. I understand why a queen is worth more than a bishop, and why a bishop and a knight are similarly valued because of their, like, the number of squares they can attack and the mobility and the this and the that and the boop and the bop, right? So I bring that up in the context of OP and our own journeys of personal growth. Because then there's another thing that Dweck said, and this is the one that got me. This is the one that I was like, oh, okay. So again, looks like this is from an interview. How can we help educators adopt a deeper, true growth mindset when we'll show in their classroom practices? And this is what Dweck herself said. You may be surprised by my answer. Let's legitimize the fixed mindset. Let's acknowledge that, 1, we're all a mixture of fixed and growth mindset. 2, we probably always will be. And 3, if we want to move closer to a growth mindset in our thoughts and practice, we need to stay in touch with our fixed mindset, thoughts, and deeds. I'm going to read that last part again, because every time I read it, it fucks me up even deeper. If we want to move closer to a growth mindset in our thoughts and practices, we need to stay in touch with our fixed mindset, thoughts, and deeds. So this is where I'm going to get a little ranty, maybe appropriately, maybe not, but we're just going to go there. So I grew up in a fairly left-leaning household. Family is lifelong Democrats, progressive, liberal, whatever you want to call it, right? Grew up in New Mexico, which when I was growing up, it was a swing state, but now it is pretty solidly blue, Democratic, progressive, liberal, left-leaning, whatever, right? And then I went to college in Chicago and was part of the arts community there. And so it was just like super progressive all the time. And then I moved to New York and it was, again, super progressive all the time. And one of the things that actually kind of distanced me from my peers in my cohort in my community, especially in the last 2 years, like really aggressively in the last 2 years, to the point that I don't even really talk to any of my activist friends anymore. I really don't, because they're so all in on growth and fixing things and progress. And now, to be clear, shit was real bad in America for a while. Like, it was not a good vibe here. Lots of laws, lots of like families being separated at the, like, just really like horrific, like human atrocities were committed straight up, like very, very bad. And the whole thing with like the Syrian refugees, and I'm like, this is okay. This is bad. Like, this is legitimately bad. We need to fix this stuff 100%. But what always kept me at a distance from a lot of my cohort, and it got to the point where I was like, I can't even have a conversation with you. Like, we're not working. Maybe ultimately at the very, very end, we're gonna be arriving at the same place, but in the short term, in terms of the day-to-day work, like, we're just doing very diametrically opposed work. Because a lot of it is like, some of it comes down to the status game of like, how woke can I appear and how much can I self-flagellate and how much can I point out my own faults and privilege. And it's this weird victim, like, by making yourself the victim that increases your status because you're playing in fucking bizarre. It's bizarre. It's a whole fucking thing, right? But one of the big things is my whole advocacy is I was like, guys, we need to have conversations with police officers. Like, if you know a cop, we have to talk to like, if we are trying to reform, police brutality and fix these systemic issues, We cannot do it from the outside. We have to actually talk to 4 real police officers and see what they feel about it, get their thoughts on it, like involve them in the process. And they're like, nope, that's not it, because all cops are bastards and blah, blah, blah. And anybody who isn't as progressive as I am is a bad person and has internalized misogyny. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're literally alienating the people that you need to help you. Like, the reason that shit isn't getting done, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Also, fuck you, Mitch McConnell. But like, one of the biggest reasons shit isn't getting done is that, like, the people in my cohort were aggressively alienating anybody who not just didn't agree. Like, I can understand being like, fuck the neo-Nazis. Great. 100%. If you're a neo-Nazi, fine. Like, you don't get to sit with me. We're not on the same team. Fuck you, goodbye. But this was like, I felt excluded because I had the audacity to try to bridge the gap between growth mindset and fixed mindset and alpha and, alpha and townsfolk land. Like, the fact that I was like, no, there's value in townsfolk land. It's just, if you're there 100% of the time, it's bad, but you can't live out in the wilderness 100% of the time. We are built to live in towns. We are designed to be townsfolk the majority of the time. Right? So I bring all of that up because, man, this quote right here, like, we need to stay in touch with our fixed mindset, thoughts, and deeds. And look, and a lot of the people, to be clear, they came from really shitty homes. They were kicked out of their homes for being gay and like awful, like racism and sex, just like really terrible stuff. And I 100% do not begrudge them for being like, fuck all of those people who hurt me and their backwards ass ways. I got no problem with that. But it's the people who didn't necessarily have that experience and are just like, well, I think that townsfolk land, aka the South, aka conservative, whatever you want to like, or like whatever the equivalent is in the UK or Europe. I'd be honest, European politics, not my strong suit. I only know about America. But like, that was definitely something where I was like, I think we need to like actively connect with the ways in which, I didn't call it this, but I was like, I think we need to connect with the ways in which we are fixed mindset and the things that we really do have in common, liberal, progressive New Yorkers with people who live in Alabama, in Tennessee, in Georgia. Like, because let's say you do want to beat them, which again, that's not the goal. But like, if you feel like you are in a combative situation, you have to actually understand them in order to like see what points they're making, so that if you actually do have better points, you will have better points, right? There was I'm so on the fence about this. If it were anybody but Taylor Swift doing this, I would be like, this is the shittiest fucking thing ever. But because it was Taylor Swift and she has enough reach and has enough conservative followers, I'm mostly okay with it, I think. So she had this video. This was in 2019? 2019. So she had a video called "You Need to Calm Down." And it was basically just like all of these, marginalized groups coming together, being in her video, like shitting on conservatives and, people who are, homophobic and sexist and racist and whatever. It was just, shitting on those people. But the problem is that it was very much coded as like, liberal elites and progressives versus all Southerners are dumb. Like, if you don't live in a major metropolitan area, you are dumb and heartless and selfish. And I'm like, I don't think that's helping, Taylor. I don't think that's helping. I think we need to acknowledge the value in townsfolk land. I really, really do. And I am grateful. Look, I'm grateful for a lot of things on a regular basis. But high on the list of shit that I am grateful for is the fact that I grew up in New Mexico and the fact that I am still on good terms with my parents, the fact that I have been able to cultivate and maintain most of my relationships from the people I knew in New Mexico. And of course, not everybody. You know, there's the 20% of people who I'm like, oh, no, you're just a dick. You're like, we're not like, we're talking past each other. You know, like this was back in 2016 where I was like, listen, if you're a Trump supporter, like we can't be friends. Like we hold like, and by Trump supporter, I don't even mean somebody who like didn't want to vote for Hillary back in 2016. I meant like there were friends who I grew up with who were like, no, Trump is the way. We need to get back to this 1950s idealized version of America. And I would point out to them, I'd be like, cool, just so you know, in your version of America, I would not be able to drink from the same water fountain as you. And I would get called the N-word in public. And there would be places I can't go because I'd get lynched. So, like, if that is what you believe about this time period, you are entitled to your opinion. But my presence in your life is anathema to what it is that you believe. And we cannot be in the same circle because you believe that the world was better when I didn't have the same rights as you. And I'm not okay with that, right? But for the majority, I've been able to stay friends. You know, a lot of my friends in New Mexico, they're like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I think the whole system is fucked, but like, we shouldn't be like separating families. Like, that's fucked up. Like, we shouldn't be keeping children in cages. That is fucked up, dude. I'm like, I know, right? Right? But all this is to say, listen, when I go back to New Mexico and, you know, go to the, you know, back when we used to go to parties, but like, you know, I'd go to backyard barbecues and I remember there was one time when I went back for, I think, yes, it was a 4th of July party in 2019. And I was home for the summer and I was like about to move to LA. And I remember like we all went to this 4th of July party at our family friends, right? And it was like every dude there under the age of 40, every single one, we all had a baseball cap on, we all had a beard, we all had sunglasses like either on or over our head. Like we all looked the same. It was weird. Like we all had the same energy, the same look. And the other day I was walking around and I had like, oh, you know what? They're right here. Ha ha ha. I can show you. So I got these cowboy boots. I've had these cowboy boots for 15 years, probably, at least. They're great. They are like high quality cowboy boots. They have lasted. So I had these cowboy boots and I was like, oh, I had the cowboy boots on and I had these distressed jeans and I had that blue shirt with the lion on it that I love. And I had these little bracelets on. And then I had this backwards cap on, not this one, but like a different backwards cap because I'm not an idiot. I don't wear black with brown in this, like the hat with that wouldn't work. And I remember walking around and I was like, oh shit, this is it. Like, this is my energy. Like, this is absolutely my most authentic self. And this version of me, like this energy, is not East Coast. It is not New York City. It just isn't. Because New York City, Manhattan, is not townsfolk land. It just isn't. And it's why, honestly, people generally don't live in New York for forever. Sometimes they do, right? But if they do, it's because they have such a steady gig that becomes their townsfolk land. So like, if you work if you work in finance, a very, very common trajectory working in finance is, you graduate college at 22, business school at 24, you move to New York at 24, 25, you struggle and grind it out for, 3 or 4 years, you put in the long hours, whatever. And then by the time you're like 28 or 29, you just have a really steady, good paying job. Like you just have that, and you show up and you move some papers around. Like, yeah, obviously you do some amount of work, but like your job is to sort of manage and supervise and deal with problems, and that becomes your townsfolk land. And crucially in townsfolk land is that things aren't supposed to change, because if things change too often, you can't actually build anything. And this is sort of like you can really see it in a very pronounced way with the EP-IJ struggle, right? It's like the IJs like myself are like, don't change anything ever. And EPs are like, turn over the apple cart because fuck the apple cart. Let's see what happens, right? Neither answer is fully correct. But I think that in terms of what's sustainable, by definition, I do think the IJs have the edge here. I really, really do. I think that the IJs who are like, listen. So I was talking to my mom. So she's an EJ. So she is very, very balanced in the middle. But one thing that she is, talking about, like her friends are people that she has known for 40 years. She was talking about getting a haircut. And the woman who cuts her hair, whatever, they both sort of blanked and like forgot to cut off the sides, and so like the front was here and the sides were here and the back was here. She's like, what's going on? Oh, snip, I must have slipped my mind. Come back in. I forgot to cut your sides. And then my mom was like, yeah, I think that's the first time that's happened in 40 years. And then my mom and I were talking, and we were both like, wow, you've been going to Helen for 40 years? She's like, yeah. Holy shit, yeah, 40 years I've known this woman, and she's been cutting my hair. I was like, damn. And so like that kind of a thing, that's sustainable, man. Like if you really can invest the time and energy into, and again, they don't see each other every day. They see each other every, once a month, once every 6 weeks. These little interactions that really build up over time. Like, and now they have a really strong foundational relationship, and it's great. And that's the kind of townsfolk land thing that I think is really important to invest in and to think about. I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that we should hurt other people or that we shouldn't try to fix systemic problems. Like, yes, of course, obviously we need to fix these things. 100%. But I think there's a difference between, there was a quote, and I'm sure I mentioned this before, but it was like, press your fingers against the boulder of justice. Like, no, what is it? Place your fingers on the boulder of justice and gently press forward. I think it's such a beautiful way to think about it, because you can't exert yourself all the time. You cannot live under the mountain. And I think just to take aim at the personal growth community as a whole, not just the OP, but like Instagram, social, like whatever, like the community as a whole, I think that it's very easy to fetishize growth. It's very easy to fetishize growth because growth feels productive. If you're, I definitely found myself addicted to growing. Why? Because I had attached my identity to, I'm a growth mindset person. I am always growing. And if I attach myself to growing, I'm never going to get bored. Okay. Not untrue, but also not sustainable. So we need to reconcile that. And, all of this stuff, I'm looking around and I'm like, again, as I mentioned in the previous video, don't get so stuck in the healing that you forget to cross the threshold into your new life. All of that is very true. But even within that, like, once you have, like, I'm a big fan of plateaus. I'm a big fan of plateaus. Because I think that if you're always steadily trying to grow, and if you're always walking uphill, that's not, you're gonna burn out. Like, you're gonna get tired and you're gonna be like, I don't want to do this anymore, because there's no plateau that I'm comfortable with. And not only that, there's no plateau ever. It's always just a constant. I'm always going to feel like I'm working a little bit harder than I should have to, as opposed to, I am much more interested, at least right now, being like, rather than having like a steady gradient of, let's say, I don't know, 30, like, rather than like a 30% rise, right? That's pretty steep. It's pretty steep. So maybe let's say 20. Let's say 15%. Let's say like a 15% rise, right? You're working, you're doing a thing. That's like, yes, I am walking up the hill. I am making movement up and forward, and we're doing the thing. Great. I want to explore the idea of, rather than going up and over at the same time, hypotenuse style, I want to explore this idea of going over and up and over and up and over and up, and having a bunch of little like mini plateaus where you can actually chill and rest and relax. And then, rather than, steadily walking forward and climbing, now it's like, okay, here's a plateau. Here's a little burst of energy that I can give to get over this little hill. And then I'm going to cruise for a while. And then a little burst of energy that takes up 30% of my gas tank. And then I'll refill. And then I'll cruise. And then I'll little burst. And then I'll cruise. And then burst. And then cruise. I want to explore the idea of cruising. I really, really do. I don't know where it's going to go, but I think that it's a concept worth considering. I think it's, if nothing else, a concept worth not shitting on. Because ultimately, here's what's going to happen. You're just going to get sick of things, and you're going to move on faster than is necessary. And just to sort of wrap this up, so I have this incredible apartment. My apartment is amazing. And when I moved in here, I was like, I can really see myself being here for a good 3 years at least, maybe 3 to 5, like depending on how career stuff goes and how whatever. Then we had a fucking pandemic, and everything went fakakta. But I was really excited at the beginning with all of this. And because I had to just spend so much time, internally, introverted world, my values, also just literally spending 21 hours a day at home, because you can't leave. I can't like go out and do shit. I have my 3-hour walk at the beginning of the day, or maybe like 2 hours in the morning and an hour in the afternoon or whatever. But like, basically, I'm just home all the time. And so like, I sort of worked through and burned through everything apartment related really quickly. And so now I've been here for a little, not quite a year and a half, and I'm already like, okay, I think I have learned what I need to learn from this place, and I'm ready for something new. And I don't love that feeling. I really don't love that feeling, because it's, again, like, I'm grateful for the time that I spent here, but there's a part of me that's like, could I have gotten more out of this experience? I feel like maybe I could have. Again, look, it is what it is. The pandemic coming, nobody could have predicted this. But all of this is to say is that I think it's really important to embrace the ways in which we are and want to be fixed mindset. And I think that, you know, the parts of me that are fixed mindset and that I want to stay fixed are the parts of me that are joyful, generous, loving, you know, focused on connection, nourishing to others and to myself, right? That's the stuff that, like, yeah, I'm yes, leave that shit fixed. Like, I am not going to question the parts of me that are generous and loving. And, you know, again, to myself and others, obviously boundaries are a form of loving someone else and blah, 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 because loving yourself and loving others, symbiosis, whatever, right? We all know this. But like the stuff that I don't want to constantly be questioning shit. And I feel like I've been living in a mindset where I've had to always be on edge, always questioning, always looking to optimize, always looking to improve. And I'm done. I can't do it. I need townsfolk land. And I think we all need townsfolk land in one way or another. And, you know, the ultimate goal is, I think, to build habits and build a townsfolk land world that is sustainable and healthy and nourishing and whatever. But I think it is a mistake to believe that townsfolk land is something to be categorically avoided. Because you're gonna burn out. Like, you may not run yourself off a cliff in one direction, but you're gonna end up running yourself off a cliff in another direction, because you're just gonna crank through people and experiences and things. You're just gonna outgrow shit too quickly and not enjoy the process and not, you know, really get the amount of time out of things that maybe you could, because you just outgrew it too quickly. All right, that's all I got for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments below. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.